Hi, I'm Paul Duchesne. Welcome to Mama Paul in the Kitchen. Today is Friday, July the 16th, 2021. And I didn't do a show last week or maybe the week before also. And the reason is I've been a little bit incapacitated. I have a condition known as early onset terminal rigor mortis, also called old age, referred to by many people in the medical establishment, especially Kaiser, as osteoporosis or arthritis. I have a serious situation with my ankle, and it's bone on bone. And I had one cortisone shot at the beginning of the year. I had my second one just yesterday, and the condition started to kick in. So I've been trying to use some acupuncture and a few other modalities to stave off the cortisone shots, because you can only get maybe 2 a year. So I'm trying to do some holistic modalities to see if I can build up some fluid in between the bones there. We'll see what happens. But anyway, we're back on the air. So I had a whole bunch of food from last week that I had bought that I literally wound up throwing away. It was just gone moldy. And I've already done two setups to the show. And I threw away a whole bunch of stuff in the beginning. I made my salad mix on the last show, putting together the combination of the kale chips, and we can't get Lydia's anymore. She went out of business, probably retired. So these are coming from Mexico via Texas. They are organic. They are certified. That's the fill mixture. So we start with a half a bag of the kale. I add the cacao, raw cacao, hemp seed, nutritional yeast, turmeric, dulse, about 2 tablespoons of each one of these items, along with some pumpkin seeds and sesame seeds. And these are all items which Ayurvedically work for me as a pizza type. They might not work for you if you were a copper or Bada or a heavier person or different constitution. And I finally got a few books. I may be able to find out some more information to let the rest of you out there who aren't like me figure out what herbs you should be using that would be good for you. So all of those in there, including my 15 different herbs that were put together by an Ayurvedic practitioner up in Ashland, Oregon years ago, and I copy her herbs every week. Anyway, that's the sprinkle that I put on every week. That lasts me a good solid week. Then I use, like I said, the green vegetables and the hard vegetables. I'm going to cut up the hard vegetables first. Now I sharpened the knife. I'm not going to do it again. I sharpened the knife for the first show that I did. What's happened twice now is I pulled some foodstuffs across here and it's knocked the camera setup off. So I've wound up having to redo the camera now twice. So this is the third time I'm doing the show. So I don't have the raw ingredients. Now if I was talking politics, I could just put down the newspaper and do it again. But with the food stuff, it's a little tricky because I wind up using the food stuff. So anyway, the knife is working a little bit better. I'm going through the hardest part of the pepper here, and I wasn't getting any resistance. That's because I sharpened the knife. I'm not crazy about sharpening knives. I like using knives. I'm not crazy about sharpening them for some reason, but it's something necessary that you really need to do. If your tools aren't working well, it's ridiculous. When you're working with a knife, especially one of these flat knives like this, you don't push something across. The blade shouldn't be touching the wood when you're pushing across. If you're going to push across, turn the blade over backwards. Otherwise, you can put little chips in the blade. So it's real easy habit to get into. Either keep the blade off the wood and push, or turn the blade over and push. Both of those things are helpful because it's real easy to wear your blade down. And I have found that you really need to sharpen it every few days, not just once a month or once every 2 weeks or something like that. You really need to do it more than once. And there's a fellow in town that comes into town and does knife sharpening every week at the commercial grocery store in town. But you have to get there by 12 noon or you're not going to get in line to get anything done. And he is generally packed up. So you have to get there between 11 and 12, and that never works for me. As some of you know, I'm a waiter, I work nights, and I usually go to bed about 4, and I usually get up around noon, so I'm not a really morning person, to say the least. So I rarely get down there. I think I did once. I've gotten up early. So I use one whole, I didn't use a red pepper today, I used an orange pepper. That was fine. I'm going to save a little bit of this lettuce for my wife. She has a tuna fish dish she's making, so I'll get rid of that. And I'll use, on the lettuce, that's the best part right there. The heart of the lettuce. Absolutely. Yummy. Hearts of lettuce. I got rid of all the leafy part. You know, another interesting sort of thing. I try not to talk while there's food in my mouth. Very bad. You'll notice when I was cutting just then, okay, maybe you didn't notice, but I'm using my hand keeps getting closer and closer to the blade, I've noticed. I've been noticing this whole year while I've been chopping. I keep getting literally closer to the blade. And my hand has literally gotten on the blade. And I started to talk, a couple of knife people that I know downtown. And by knife people, I mean people who walk around carrying knives, have 2 or 3 or 4 knives. They borrow my knives to sharpen them. And he had a Japanese knife on the order of this type of a knife. But the knife had a hole in it right here, right in the blade. So the blade, the sharp part of the blade was sort of down a little bit, but a hole here because his hand was on here in the blade. And I have found that more and more I keep doing this, I keep getting my hand closer to the blade. And I thought maybe that wasn't right. Am I doing it wrong? What's going on? Maybe it is wrong. Maybe you're not supposed to do it. Maybe Anthony Bourdain doesn't do it. I don't know. Or didn't do it. He's not around anymore. The movie about him is opening today. And Anthony Bourdain is on NPR this afternoon. They're playing an old talkie interview he had about 6 years ago, I guess, 6, 7 years ago. And he killed himself, 2 years ago now? And the interview was in 2016. I don't know if you caught any of the shows where he would go around the world and meet with all these food people in these really small, indigenous, out-of-the-way places. Very interesting character. And I really liked the way he presented the food and presented the local food. He was even in Jackson Heights, Queens, underneath the L there, underneath the subway, the train, which is one of the most multicultural places on the planet. And he was in there about one of his latter shows. All right, so I've got the fennel, the pepper, and the celery. The red pepper makes it look redder. It's okay though, it's okay. So, got it in there, and then I transpose it to a little plastic. When you're keeping your vegetables or anything that you're storing, if you have a vacuum packing machine, some people do, in their kitchens, then you pull a vacuum on it. If not, whoops, wow, that didn't go good, did it? Well, I think we're having a heck of a day today here. If you have a vacuum packing machine, use it. If you don't, what I try to do is I try to get as little air in the container as possible. So this container is only filled up, knock it down a little bit. As I use it, by the second or third day, it'll be down about a third, and I'll transpose it to a smaller container. Always working it into a smaller container. Okay, so the hard vegetables were done. Let me straighten this out a little bit here. Excuse my sloppiness. Okay, so the last thing we're going to put together is are the green vegetables. Let me try this out. Okay, there we go. I'll get rid of the kale chips. Okay, I've got 5 vegetables actually I'm going to put in here. Now I talked about this as Organic Girl came out with this product, and it's 50-50 spring mix and baby spinach. All of their stuff was put in plastic containers. It's a real crying shame, and it was because of the pandemic and the handling of the foods. So a lot of the stuff that I was able to get in bulk, I'm not able to get in bulk right now. I'm going to take about, let's say a good third of this container. I'm going to put this in here. So this is spinach, and baby spinach, and the mixed spring greens. Mixed spring greens. I'm going to add sunflower greens. I really like sunflower greens. Right now, also in a plastic container. I'll put about a third of them in there, and then I'll add these back to the 50-50 container to save room in the fridge. And we got this, and we've got the radicchio. And the radicchio, I always like to use radicchio just for the color. The color alone. The outside leaves a little bit wilted. It's been here a while. The rest is nice. Okay. I'm just going to go straight down on it like that. I could take the leaves off. I didn't bother with that. This is nice. And it adds a little color. I like a little color in the food all the time. Okay, and the coup de grace. This is organic watercress. This is not easy to get, I'll tell you. And the reason it's not easy to get, that's a lot, but I will use it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to pull it off the stems, get rid of the heavy stem parts. The reason it's not easy to get, it's a packaging problem. They can't, this package, I've suggested it should have holes in it. It needs to breathe. Now this just came in. There hasn't been any watercress for months. And the reason there hasn't been is they haven't been able to sell this type of a green in bulk because of the virus. Everything moved into packaging, and the watercress itself specifically does not hold up well in an airtight package. It's already starting to exude moisture. You can see it down here. It's already starting to exude some moisture here. Some of them are getting a little wilted, and within 3 days this is going to start to go bad. So I'm going to transpose this to a nylon bag, a little nylon bag, and hopefully that'll improve the durability of it. Watercress is really bitter. It's a great green vegetable, really high with a lot of bioflavonoids and really high in minerals, vitamins. The macros used to make a really nice little watercress soup. It's a simple kind of soup, just watercress and some tamari soy sauce, and you've got a nice soup for the afternoon. I might have gone a little overboard with the watercress, but I haven't seen it in so many months that I was really sort of thrilled to. It's bitter. It's bitter. I like bitter vegetables. And what I try to do with bitter vegetables, I try to balance them with blander vegetables. So you mix the bitter with the bland, maybe even a little sweet in there, and at the end of the day, the whole thing tastes delicious. So you're not getting overwhelmed with bitter. My wife doesn't like bitter at all, so she's real skeptical sometimes when she takes some of my salad mix. And if I put dandelion in, whoa, I can put like a few slivers of dandelion in, she'll pick it up immediately. And she'll say, what'd you put in here? So when you're making things for other people, if you want other people to eat them, you want to make sure the whole thing tastes acceptable to the crowd that you're cooking for or fixing food for. And so far, in general, I haven't had any big problems, even though I use a good amount of You know, there's just too much here. That's enough. I don't measure things very often, as you may have noticed. When I said 2 tablespoons of all these different ingredients in here, it could have been 2.5, it could have been 3. I mean, I wouldn't be anal about it. I try to make it balanced, so at the end of the day, there's not too much of any one thing and nothing takes over. Okay, so we're done with this. The lettuce is out of the way, the sprouts are out of the way, the watercress, and we'll mix this up and try not to knock the whole thing over. Very nice. Very nice. And those were all the stems here from the watercress. If you were making a soup, you could dice the stems up and leave them into the soup, and they would cook down. That would be okay. But for a raw salad, I wouldn't. You don't want to have a lot of. It's just too much fiber. Too much fiber. And we'll get a nylon bag, and we'll put the whole. When you use a nylon bag, use it like a glove. Put your hand in the bag, and then use it like a glove to grab what you got to go in it. I picked this habit up when I used to make the tofu, and the tofu would be in a bucket in the produce case, and you'd grab a plastic bag, put it on your hand, and put your hand into the water and grab the tofu out. And it was an easy, convenient way to deal with it. Okay, so about 16 minutes in, 3 times we've done it. I have the greens, the hard vegetables, the topping. Okay, 2 other things I do when I'm making my salad. 2 other ingredients I add. So I'm going to take the salad. I would then come in, I would make a little handful of this. And the way I would do this on a daily basis, I usually do this in the morning, and I would make 2 salads or 3 salads at a time, because I'm really, you could say I'm lazy and I don't want to cook all day long, but I spend a lot of time cooking and preparing food, so I try to cut corners here and there. So I put the greens down, 2 little handfuls of the harder vegetables. Now, the 2 things I'm going to add to this, which I don't do in advance, other than maybe 24 hours in advance, would be the jicama and the cucumber. And the reason is, the cucumber is really wet. And if you put the cucumber with anything here for over 24 hours, it's going to wilt everything else out. And the jicama does not hold up well over long periods of time. Now what I do with this jicama, I leave it out of the refrigerator on a countertop. This side is where it's gone brown. Inevitably, it's going to go a little bit brown. Jicama, interestingly, I am not going to recite it, but if you look up the nutritional value, it's quite a bit of nutritional value in jicama. I was shocked 2 weeks ago when I looked up. So I'm going to get rid of that last little slice there, and I'm going to make the end nice and white. I'm just going to throw it away. That's it. Now, when you buy jicama in the store, this is about 1/8 of one. All right, 1, 2, 7, 8. They're usually big. It's hard to get a small jicama, and nobody is going to use this unless you have some incredible recipe for jicama. I don't know. So I'm going to put that to the side. That's all I'm going to use is that piece. Slice it off. I'm going to get rid of the skin on the outside. So I don't use a lot of it, but the jicama is really crunchy, sort of like a cross between a coconut and a cucumber in a sense. A little bit of that, and then maybe 5 decent sized chunks of cucumber. Cut them in half. Again. 5 green vegetables in the green part of the salad, 3 hard vegetables, when I'm counting 5 slices. For some reason, years ago, some chef mentioned when you're dealing with vegetables and everything, always use 5 of anything. I don't know whether there was any sense to that or not. So there's my salad for, let's go, we got, whoops, I don't want to do that. I've done that twice now tonight. I have hit the camera or the lens on my iPad, and that's what controls the camera. That's why that's happened. Okay, so we got this all done over here, and what I do with this kind of a salad is I then cut it in half. In this case, like a third of it off. I cut about a third of it off here for tonight, and the other I put in this little container, and I will hopefully have this for tomorrow for breakfast and maybe tomorrow night for dinner, like so. And then we got this apart, and then we're going to put the little sprinkle on it. Last but not least, olive oil. And so the olive oil, we'll put the olive oil, we'll drizzle. I use a lot of olive oil, and the pepper. Now this is a decent sized salad. It's on my plate where I'm going to put my hot food, and tonight it's going to be beans, potato salad, and petroli sole that's been battered and fried. So I'm going to batter and fry petroli sole. I got a can of beans, Field Day classic baked beans, petroli sole, and potato salad from my favorite health food store. Everything's organic. The salad is the main part of the meal. The salad is always there. And for me, it seems like that's the driving force behind the whole diet, is keeping the food organic, cutting back on a lot of things you don't need in your diet, and adding the things you do need. The olive oil for this week, Lucina, organic extra virgin olive oil. Now, there's about a dozen brands of olive oil that I buy at the store, and I go every week and look for the one that's on sale. I've had this before. It's really delicious. It's an everyday oil from Italy, a first cold pressing, got a lot of nice bite to it. And like I said, I look for the discounted oil every week in my favorite health food store. The other item, I just bought a bottle of this. I'm going to mention it to you. I mentioned it before. If you like vinegar, Stonewall Kitchen. Now, I think they used to be part of a different company up in Sonoma, and they're probably private labels. Anyway, Stonewall is a big company. They put out lots of ingredients, and this particular balsamic vinegar is the thickest, sweetest balsamic vinegar in America, and this is the cheapest bottle they sell too. This is Stonewall Kitchen's Private Reserve, oak wood aged Private Reserve, $9.95 a bottle, directly from them. And we can't get it in our health food store anymore because it's not certified organic. It's close to, but not totally certified. So I send away for this, and I've given it away as gifts for a few times. It's absolutely, I don't do much vinegar myself, but my wife does, so I become a bit of an expert on it. I'll give you one more pitch for a product. Bada cherries, if you like maraschino cherries. These aren't organic, but they are non-GMO. So a lot of stuff coming out of Tilden Farms with the Stonewall Kitchen is close to organic. Not quite. It's close enough that it's probably better than most things you'll get at Whole Foods. These are incredibly sensational. When COVID started, I started making my wife a Singapore Sling at night, and I started drinking a little gin, and the Bada Bing dark red cherry going in it was absolutely perfect. So I was using a little bit of gin on the rocks with a Bada Bing cherry. Maybe not be the best thing promoting this, but anyway, that's what I've been doing. So full disclosure, that's what we've been drinking all year, is a little bit of gin during Stonewall. And as long as you don't go over an ounce and a half of gin a night, you should be okay. Don't 2 and 3 shots is not good. It starts to eat away at the calcium in your bones. But I think 1.5, 2 shots is within the limit. You'll find people that are 80, 90 years old sitting down sipping a little once a day, not a big deal. But if you're drinking 3 or 4, then it's a big deal. So there's always a curve going on with these things. So just be careful if you start to get into something different. Well, okay, that's it for today. We're not going to do those mushroom dish tonight. We did the salad. I really think this diet I'm going to put more time and energy into this. I think it's really the basis for what a lot of people ought to be eating. Because you want to get that, you want to increase your intake of raw food. And by increasing your intake of raw food, you're taking in more vitamins, more minerals, more enzymes. And the enzymes are keeping your system flushed, filling you up with all sorts of vitality. So I think it's a important sort of accidental discovery I fell into. The other 2 things I wanted to do on the show is I wanted to make the brown rice and tofu sandwich, which I used to make for a living. It was Wildwood Natural Foods brown rice and tofu sandwich. And historically, it's what got me into, it's about the time that I got into health food, a long time ago. People still remember the sandwiches. I can still taste some of them. And within the next week or 2, I think I'm going to start a thing where I do 2 or 3 or 4 shows where I actually make a half a dozen of these brown rice and tofu sandwiches. The other product I've been talking about making is the organic Twinkie that I worked on for 18 years. Hello. And so I have most of the equipment I need in the house still, and that would be a project also. That would be another 2, 3, 4, or 5 shows to do that. So those are 2 shows I've got in the back of my mind that I want to put together: the brown rice sandwich and the Twinkie. I'd like to keep going with this little salad deal because I think it is, I guess that's the end of the salad from last week that I'm going to toss because it's got a little bit wilted. That's it. Peace, patience, persistence, and we'll see you as soon as we can. Thanks for joining me.